The film opens with Henry sitting by himself at a toll station behind the wheel of the night shift car at the still section of the highway. Shortly after dawn, he is back home. He goes to be welcomed by his wife Debbie, who prepares him a breakfast. She seems very optimistic. It's like she's expecting this to happen someday, and now it has. She has been waiting for this morning for the past several hours for him to make breakfast, like she has never had before. As Henry starts eating, Debbie asks him if he is going with her to see Sandy and Bill this week, but he says casually, yes, when all at once she says that she doesn't want to go at all. She'll have Sandy and Bill come over to their place. The child has no problem answering when he asks her if she is referring to children, as she confirms definite. One day, without any provocation, she asks him whether he is in love with her or not. Papa Henry can't even think about the question yet, when there is a rapping sound on the door. Henry opens it, and there's his friend Eddie there, and there's a guy named Joe, who looks pretty miserable. His face is pale, he's sweating. Something must not be correct. As it is obvious that Debbie is a nurse, she rushes straight to assist with Joe. Meanwhile, Eddie calls to Henry to fill in for Joe at their baseball game. The team is in desperate need of someone a player as sick as Joe. Henry says that it is November, but he is holding back. Eddie shrugs it off and informs it that this is a well-maintained field. So that's okay, or normal, right? Henry looks back at Debbie, and it's clear that the one he's desperate for is to avoid having to go through that awkward session of talking about love and kids. So he agrees. Henry then is in the car with Eddie, wondering where is this game taking place. He tells Eddie it's close to a nearby neighborhood called Kaiser Village, about 15 minutes away. On the way, Eddie requests Henry pull over near a small alley. He steps out of the car, and to himself says, "Wait, Henry." He comes out of the car, and Henry, wait. What Henry doesn't realize is that Eddie and the rest put on masks and stroll straight into a bank. Even they wrest guns out of their hands. In a flash, it's not a baseball game at all. It is a robbery. He doesn't know what is going on. All of a sudden, the alarm goes off. The masked men run out of the bank and escape. Just at that moment, a cop drives by, and he catches a whiff of something. The problem is that Henry is wearing the team shirt, the same as the robbers. That is enough. He is arrested on the spot. When he actually didn't rob, they know it. However, the big question is now, why are those guys not your friends if they're not? No matter what type of interrogation, the detective tells Henry that he was not in the bank. Henry says, so ends up inside with 3-year sentence. He sees his cellmate, a man named Max Saltzman, inside. After Max asks Henry what it is he's in for, Henry grumbles out bank robbery. Max's reaction is as if Henry has told him that he won the lottery. But it's simple, clean and good money, he says. After that, Henry asks Max, what will he get? What is this anymore? Max says soundly, murder, life sentence. At breakfast the next day, Max begins to converse with Henry about dreams. He states that the majority of men in prison had dreams previously. They did plan, but there was a problem, and this is where they are. Later, Henry asks him what his dream was. Henry claims that he didn't have one for one thing. Max tells him that's the actual crime, not following a dream. Outside the environment is not that much different from a prison, Henry explains. If you don't attempt a building, if you never go after what you want, then you're in a cell, albeit not the same sort. 6 months later, Debbie comes to visit Henry. She inquires after his welfare, and he says he is all right, but she does not hang around. She says she has to discuss an important matter with him. She's found someone, which is an odd thing about Henry. He doesn't erupt. He does not argue. He just says that he wants her to be happy. If this makes her happy, then he is okay with it. The months pass. Max observes that Henry is playing these games with the other inmates to get them to look up to him as this bad guy. One day Max joins in the fun and tells a wild story. Once he tells the friend who arrested him what he would do if he would get free. First, he would run home, slaughter his own dog, set fire to his house, and, while the guy is sitting in the barber's chair, cut out his tongue. The barber freezes and exclaims, "Man, you actually scared me." The prisoners start laughing and begin to talk about another subject. They call Henry to find out when his conference is. He tells her, next month. He's been told by everyone that he is innocent. Henry says that he didn't. He really didn't. Maybe not, but you had the time. You could have ran away. Maybe that means that it was all part of it after all, says one inmate. Later, Henry comes to Max asking about his dream. Max claims it's easy to live here. There is no longer any need for him to prove himself. Finally, Henry's release is approved, so he leaves prison and visits Debbie. However, upon his arrival, he is hit with a surprise of the century. The guy who's in love with her is the same guy who was looking sick the day of the robbery, a guy named Joe. Henry meets up with Debbie again, and she's just exactly as he remembered her being on her wedding day. She's gotten pregnant, just as he had hoped she would. Her life has taken a dramatic turn. What he finds shocking is that he has been in jail. Everything has changed. Debbie leads him to where she stored his things, and asks him what he will do about it now. Joe strolls into the chalet at the time and coldly offers him a job with a company called Janur, which is dealing with Korean kitchenware. He tells Henry to take his time and think about it. In this last scene, Joe thanks him for not giving him up to the police. Henry says that he never even knew his name himself and did not tell it. Next, Henry walks to the same bank at which all of his nightmares began. While the man is walking, he comes across a car that has hit him from out of nowhere. The lady at the wheel races out of the car in alarm. We meet Julie like that. She yells at him because he didn't keep an eye on him, and asks him if he's okay, just as fast. Then, the same police officer that he got arrested by, he claims he saw them all, the shot-making sailor, the dog, and of course, she wasn't listening. She was checking her cell phone. The officer assists Henry to get off the floor, and after a gentle smile, acknowledges Henry's identity. Sometime later, Henry goes into a cafe. After a short time, Julie arrives. She went to see how he's doing. She asks him whether he called an ambulance. He tells her he is doing great. He's doing so well. The shock of the accident doesn't seem to have fogged his brain. She takes a careful look at his face. He gives her a looking and declares that he sees her in his face. She laughs and says that she does commercial acting. She is probably a familiar sight to him. When she leaves, she instructs him to take better care of himself the next time. Henry then goes to the bathroom, and that's where something clicks. He notices an old newspaper in a clipping on his wall. It's about an attempted bank robbery which occurred decades ago via a tunnel. He freezes. Out he then goes and gazes around carefully. There is said to be a tunnel between the bank and that theater. In no time, an idea begins to take treatment. Henry goes back to prison to visit Max. Then he sits down and explains to him that he has finally met his dream. Max asks, "What is it?" This is his dream come true, and Henry looks him straight in the eye and says, "My dream is to rob a bank for one's time." Max simply gazes at him. That's the dream the guy selected out of all the dreams that a man can have. Henry explains himself. He is already jailed for a bank he robbed. There is a robbery he committed that is not his. Well, if he will be called a third-class citizen the rest of his life, he might as well become one. He asks Max to join in his work. Max seeks assistance with what? It is perfectly clear, says Henry. Help me to steal a bank. If anything, Max runs about flattest and in the dullest manner. He may not say no, but he certainly doesn't say yes. Henry goes to the theater and sees Julie there rehearsing a play. He watches.
Julie is there rehearsing for a play. They walk to a cafe and talk. Henry compliments her acting. Unlike the director who trashed her during rehearsal, she thanks him for not suing her over the accident. Meanwhile, Max is attending his parole review, and he follows Henry's advice to be good in front of the evaluators. He is successfully released.
They have been strolling, sizing up the location as if they were wanting to start an account. The person asking asks the employee, "What?" Max conjures up an entire narrative from his interest in what sort of account they're interested in. His grandfather hiding money in the vault when he was a kid.
With his great old man charm, Max manages to get all the information they need about the vault.
Thereafter, they return to the theater to work out the solution to the tunnel. "Henry, you are here again to be my pleasure, but I'm not that happy about it, especially when he took his Max too." Max introduces himself as he did, and asks them if they can venture in and take a look around. Julie asks him, it does have the production company he worked with, and what shows he did. He does tell of great works he did do, such as Shakespeare, and simply poured his soul into that role, casually. A tour. He asks for a little tour of the place. While Max is leaving with one of the staff members, the staff member leads him up hose and tells him the exact location of the tunnel. Max unobtrusively touches the walls to check its construction, test what may be there lurking behind them. Henry is explaining to Julie that he recently got out of prison. When she asks what he was in for, he quickly responds that it was not murder, and then flips the script before she can ask, and pats her back on the shoulder. When she asks him, he responds, it wasn't murder, before changing topics and praising how historic this building is. The employee greets Max and tells him he'll see him the next day. Henry looks confused. The man confirms it, the next day. Max offered to do some work at the theater. When Henry is saying goodbye, he asks Julie what she will be up to after rehearsal. He would like to take her out to Chinese food, one by one, and will retrieve her at 8 o'clock. Max returns to the apartment, and out he plots the plan. A first step is to remove the dirt from the tunnel. While Max discusses strategy, Henry is getting ready for his date. He appears to be nervous. He asks Max, do you look alright? He's even asking Max if he'll be okay without him before he leaves. Max tells him to not worry. He should just come do his night. Later, Julie shows up at the Chinese restaurant with an apology for being late. How did rehearsal go? Henry asks. Then she says that she is hungry and get me, I want duck. During the waiting for the meal, she gets herself a little lax and tells them her true story. She says she does not want to be any good at her job, rather she wants to be good at her job. She wants to be great, and she must be. She doesn't want her business career to be associated with commercials alone. She wants her gainful occupations done before she gets older. She's looking for something of significance. Henry encourages her. He tells her to go after it. Once the fortune cookies are all there, Julie tells me that she doesn't like the cookies at all. He says that he enjoys Henry the writer little messages inside. Following dinner, they stroll close to the waterfalls. That's when Henry reveals to her the truth about what he did that landed him in prison. In jest, he says that he's considering actually going inside the bank. Julie laughs. She is planning to guess that he's joking. Can't believe that he's interested. Later, they will have ice cream, sitting there together. Julie expresses that she finds it unbelievable that they somehow got here as they are. Henry can't believe it either. She hands him a places on the script and points to the middle line and says to him, read the middle line. He reads the script numbers aloud, taking them dramatically. She tells him she in fact is pleased that she hit him with her car. With time, Henry simmers with the appeal of her personality. She's everything he's been missing. This is the spark he would never let into his being, the confidence, the boldness, the energy. The next morning, Henry and Julie go back to Max's apartment. Max immediately starts discussing the robbery scheme and not realizing that Julie is with them. Henry tells him that it's okay, she knows. Max nearly chokes. He takes Henry's arm and asks what she knows about it. They then sit down and eat breakfast together. And just like that, this odd little lineup is beginning to take shape. When breakfast time comes, Julie peers at Max and asks him by chance, "So what did you do in prison?" Max shrugs and explains that he had little or no role to play in the murder. A bit too hot of a dude. She then asks you the obvious question, "Weren't you too afraid to get caught?" Max grins and says that he really loves prison. Not so comforting, that's Max. Max says they should leave for the theater after breakfast. Julie agrees to do this. As they are talking, Henry reminds him of the car situation. While riding with her, Max suddenly gets an idea. If he goes to the play for an audition, he will be able to freely move around the back of the theater and won't get caught red-handed in the tunnel again. But then, inexplicably, at the worst possible moment, one of the principal characters suddenly falls ill. Max looks at Henry. "That's when we should be digging. We can get in the back of the stage in the dressing area." The thought suddenly strikes him sharply. He recommends Henry to have the role in the play. Right away, Henry says that there's no way he could act, but Max pushes him. Otherwise, he'll be out to roam in the street. It helps him to remember that Julie believes in him. Julie sees the director yelling at another actor.
The actor takes it as personal and quits on the spot. Max comes up with a shrewd suggestion to replace him with Henry, and it goes well. They all cast Henry, and just like that, he gets cast. The room that connects to the tunnel is now at their backstage, and they can finally visit the room. When they experience this firsthand, however, they discover that this is more than they can cope with individually. An additional helping hand will be required, so they go out seeking a man. Of course, someone that they see first is Joe. Max issues a certain question indicating what he sees in Henry. Is that the guy? Henry nods. The next shot is a close-up of them sitting at a table with Joe. Henry asks him what he thinks life is like. Joe says that all the things went wrong. His business failed. None of the general public is interested in. Maybe they can help him with his financial situation, Henry tells him. They lead him to a tunnel and describe what they're going to do there. Joe hears this and casually offers to see if they can walk in, collect the cash, and get away with it. Max promptly puts an end to that. Their problem is that they're not doing the same dashboard kidnapper snafu as they did previously. As they start digging, Henry gives Julie a different image to think of. He wholeheartedly embraces his part within the activity. He's serious about it, but she feels he is playing for more than just profit. He desires a fresh start, a brand new way of life on his own terms. Henry is a dabbler in both worlds, behind-the-scenes actor, in-progress bank robber. One night, Henry and his brothers Max and Joe are walking home to their parents when the same police officer suddenly comes up to them. They are studied with his eyes, and he says something interesting. "The first time we have been together was in the bank. You are approaching from the back of the theater, behind the bank. I believe I have a good idea of what you are up to." In the next scene, he's sitting in their car and they're going through their daily routine at the bank with him. A transport vehicle comes once a month to collect all the currency back to the bank. 8 to 12 million barrels of chili peppers are stored in the basement vault. He informs them otherwise, saying that if they don't make use of that, they were stupid. He even offers to help disable the alarms and act as their inside man. Returning to the theater, rehearsals proceed, though Julie's director is pushing her just as hard. He roughs and slurs her, mocks her, transgresses boundaries. He explains to her if she doesn't do what he's asking, then she will grow old, alone, broke, and without any work. Julie eventually tears, and she rushes in, unbuttoning her coat and heading towards her dressing room. Play a 5-minute break is called by the director. Henry comes with her to see for himself how she is doing. She tells him she knows she is talented, but people always say that something's amiss. Later that night, someone comes to knock on Henry and Max's door. They open it to find Joe and Eddie. Joe's face is bloody. Eddie says Joe told him everything. He wants in, but Eddie walks in as if he owns the place. She says that he isn't digging. He's going right on in among them, regardless of their opinions. Any disagreement will result in a person's departure. Max doesn't get along with his attitude right away. He calls Joe as the one that brought him that was naive. Eddie, he politely asks you to leave. Eddie refuses. Almost punching Henry, Max holds him back. After the crime has calmed down, Henry asks Eddie about what he would like to have. Eddie replies understandingly, the money. The next, on one day, Henry and Max find out that the feast opening night is just days away. Henry panics. He doesn't know if he'll want to go on, but Max says that Henry was the inspiration for him to come out of prison to go after something again. Max, he says his appreciation has not been so great in years. He has done so now, and Henry can't turn back. Later, Henry tells Julie they will have to do the job on opening night. She mistakes for him and considers he has ended it with her. She asks, "Absolutely we will meet again," says Henry. "I would have thought that we should go to California together." She laughs the first time, but then angers up. She knows he's just seeing her because he's playing along with her in doing his crime. She reminds him that at the end of the day, he's still a criminal. If he wants to, she breaks down and insists he go. Faster comes the big night. This play, along with its double whammy of the theft at opening night, is a cinch to finish. The play is a no-brainer, as is the robbery done in conjunction with its original night. The director gathers the cast before the show opens and delivers a full-fledged lecture on the importance of doing a great cast. The amount of money is delivered to the bank, as the officer has feared. Henry takes his role on the stage and sneaks off to assist in the robbery. At first, it's going well. It was excavated, it was done right on time, it was gained access to the vault. After that, however, all the elements build up into a major problem as Max delays. Finally, when Max shows up, they break through into the basement and pick the money up. But at the moment, everything seems to be as it should be, when Eddie pulls a gun out of his pocket, holding one to point at Max. He asks him to hush up and put up with it. Eddie knocks Max out, putting him out of it. Henry, the man from the theater, appears then. Joe asks for Eddie to leave peacefully, since they are now rich. Rather, it's Eddie aiming the gun at Henry. Joe takes a hold of Eddie's arm and bites him. Henry gets hit by the bullet. Then, there appears to be a flash of light, and Max comes too. He tries to make fighting with Eddie, and they manage to overcome him. The director is calling on the actors on the stage, and they are about to set up. Henry's hurt. He nevertheless gets out of the door to complete his scene. Meanwhile, they secure Eddie, and push him back into the tunnel. Once they have dealt with it, it is time for Max, Joe, and Henry to get the money and go. But as they are escaping, Henry suddenly tells Joe to stop the car. He steps out, Joe inquiring about what is going on, but Henry doesn't reply. He simply takes off running into the street. Suddenly, he begins running back. Max understands instantly. That's the plan Henry decided to go back on. He is forbearing in telling Joe that it is advisable if they leave promptly. Henry rushes back into the theater and yells for Julie. He steps onto the stage for her and says, "Come back for me." These lines do not appear in the script. He wants them to build a life together. He wants to go and live in Moscow with her. He wants to be with her. Julie makes a valiant effort to continue the performance, but Henry isn't budging. He told her that if he hadn't left, he would have explained to her how he felt. She tells him not to act like he doesn't care. He keeps pushing and is off script. Other actors attempt to do something, but he shouts at them to get out of his way. The audience believes that all this is a show. Indeed, they are more involved than at any time before. Some of them even begin to almost convince Julie to accept and go to Moscow with him. The director calmly manipulates the light, so the chaos is turned into a dramatic moment, and instructs Julie to react. She does not actually say it, but she demonstrates it in her reaction. She chooses him. And here is the end of our story. Like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more movie recaps.